Okay, so there's a lot of focus at the moment on the Gambia, which is a small country in West Africa. Um, but there's a lot of focus both in the region and actually abroad, beyond West Africa, because of the potential for conflict that is brewing. So basically, at the end of last year, there was an election in Gambia, and that election went by largely peacefully. And it produced a surprising result in that the incumbent, Yahya Jammeh, was defeated after 22 years in power. I'll come more to his record in a second. But the winner was declared to be Adama Barrow of the Coalition 2016 party. He won 227,708 votes, compared to Mr. Jammeh's 208,487. And the third party, led by Mama Kande, got 89,768. So, based on those results, in an electorate of less than a million, Adama Barrow got a relatively comfortable victory, 43% to Jammeh's 39%. No one doubts that Adama Barrow won. His victory was widely acknowledged. World leaders congratulated him. And initially, Yahya Jammeh actually conceded defeat. Well, he's changed his tune in that time. For what reason, who knows? It could be the old adage of simply wanting to cling on to power. Jammeh ran an authoritarian regime. He was often accused of serious human rights abuses, including crackdown on press freedom, the killing of migrants, shooting students, just to name some. Also, the persecution of LGBT people in the Gambia. His record on women's rights was a bit better because he abolished FGM and underage marriage. So they're the better aspects of his legacy. But needless to say, numerous groups have accused his regime of human rights abuses. Now, this is a classic case, unfortunately, of an African strongman leader refusing to go. Unfortunately, it's not the first, and it probably won't be the last. But the situation at the moment is what is going to happen on January the 19th, because that is the date in which his mandate will run out. As I understand it, there has been crisis talks, and there has been representatives of the ECOWAS states, Economic Community of West Africa, including Nigeria's President Buhari, to have talks with Mr. Jammeh in Banjul. And as I understand it, residents have been fleeing Banjul fearing violence. So this is quite a tense situation. Um, the leader of Mali has warned that there will be a bloodbath if Jammeh doesn't step down. So it's really Jammeh and his loyalists versus the rest of the world, versus ECOWAS, versus the African Union and the international community. He should step down. There's no question about it. I think if he clings on to power, there may well be the potential for violence. That's not to say that Adama Barrow would encourage his supporters to use violence. I've seen no indication of that. I don't know much about him, but so far he seems to have behaved very responsibly. Um, and he is using conciliatory tones. He's saying, for example, if Jammeh steps down, there will be no repercussions for him. Um, as I understand it, Mr. Barrow is in Bamako in Mali for crisis talks. So, really, this would be a very sad situation if it is yet another repeat of history, because this is exactly one of the biggest problems holding Africa back is these arrogant strongmen that think they and they alone have the power to basically keep a nation as if it's their own. It should be the Gambian people alone who decide this. No, I'm not surprised that Jammeh has been using the old line of, oh, the international community is interfering in Gambian affairs. This is always the excuse when either human rights are raised or an authoritarian leader is put, there's pressure put on an authoritarian leader to step down. 22 years is a long time. He's had his time. He needs to step down now and let his successor take office peacefully. I want to hear from Gambians. Um, if you have access to YouTube, please let me know your thoughts. What do you think about the situation? Are you concerned? Do you think there could be violence? And what do you think of Mr. Jammeh? Obviously, I'm an outsider. This is an outsider's perspective. But I think it is fair to say that the overwhelming consensus, both within Africa and outside Africa, is that Mr. Jammeh has to go. If he clings on to power, he will be responsible for the unrest that follows because he's refusing to accept the democratic results. Now, this was quite a clear victory for Mr. Barrow. I don't think it's a case that it was too close to call that there should be any recount. And I mean, if that was the case, why did he initially concede defeat? So this backtracking is unacceptable, and I think he just needs to go for the good of Gambia and for the good of setting a template for African politics in general. The good news is that we are now in an era where there is greater democracy than ever before, not just in Africa but around the world. But that doesn't mean that it is something to be taken for granted. Where you get strong men like this, they just want to cling on to power forever, and that's problematic because obviously it's not democratic. But without democratic plurality, then you're not going to have accountability. You're not going to have freedom of the press and so on. Which means that, for example, in Gambia, if Jammeh has his way, only his supporters would have a voice. That is unacceptable. So I really hope the situation can be resolved. I hope ECOWAS can effectively put pressure on Jammeh to do this. Nigeria has even spoken about the potential for military intervention. I don't think that's going to happen yet, but this is a very serious situation. And if he doesn't step down, sadly, there has been a precedent of violence in other parts of West Africa. Admittedly, I don't know that much about Gambian politics. I mean, I know really the basics, but there has been a precedent in other parts of West Africa, and it would be a tragedy if this ended up in an avoidable conflict. So he has to do the right thing and step down now, and allow Mr. Barrow to assume office and become the next president of Gambia. Let me know your thoughts. Incidentally, on keeping with African politics, last year, Hissin Habre, the former dictator of Chad, was effectively brought to justice by the African Union. Now, that is a very good thing because very often the problem with European countries or the United States kind of commenting on African politics or intervening is that there is always an allegation, oh, it's post colonialism or it's powerful countries telling African countries what to do. I think if it is African led, that is a great thing because then that allegation cannot be used. So I hope Mr. Buhari, as president of Nigeria, which is the real powerhouse in the region, puts pressure on Jammeh to step down, to just do the right thing and step down. Um, Let me know your thoughts. If you're Gambian, what do you think of the situation? Are you living in Banjul? Is it a tense situation? And finally, stay safe. I hope everything works out, and I hope it's a future, a positive future for Gambia. Thanks for watching.